Yeah, I want to talk about the conspiracy clowns. Yeah, I don't know, maybe I'm going to get some people mad, but I remember there was this guy, I forgot the hell his name was. You know, he used to do a skit about different, he was pretty funny, man. He's probably still around on YouTube, but, you know, one of the skits he did was on the conspiracy clown, and we all knew what he was talking about. It was Alex Jones. He had the clown face on and stuff. And, but I'm going to tell you this, you know, I was looking at some of the comments from Donald Marshall on some blog. And this is a guy that allegedly knows about this cloning going on and all this weird stuff with, I don't even want to say what he said exactly, but I'll get to that later in the video if you don't know who the hell he is. Look him up, Donald Marshall clone or something, and see what he says. But, you know, the thing that gives him the most credibility in my mind is like all these people he's calling out as basically disinformation people. I agree with him 100%. 100%. You know, one thing he was talking about, I know like with Alex Jones, for instance, during the 2000 Y2K, he was talking, and you can look back, he was talking about, you know, the Russians were sending missiles to the United States, and everybody was panicking and stuff, and, you know, it was a big play up of, you know, all of civilized society was going to stop. And actually, I didn't think there was going to be. I thought, you know, I was looking at some other studies that there was going to be some repercussions 6 months down the road due to other economies that could not adjust for the Y2K bugs in the computers and stuff. Well, he lost, you know, Alex Jones actually lost a lot of credibility because nothing really happened with the Y2K. And the Russians didn't blow us up with missiles and stuff like he was screaming about. But later on in that year, 2000, he walked into Bohemian Grove. And, you know, I always figured, you know, how the hell did this guy just waltz right into Bohemian Grove? Is he like, you know, like the best American scout Indian or something like that? And he was wearing a ghillie suit, and he was half Indian, and he was kind of like snooping and pooping through the trees, and he was blending in with the vegetation. No, and you know, I was reading something Donald Marshall says, you know, the fat goof is walking through the water, crunch, 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 and I was like, exactly. They let him film that to give him his credibility back. That's what I look at it as. You know, he says, like with David Icke, I don't call him Icke anymore because I was always mispronouncing that, not on purpose, but Icke. He says he's with them, and you know, Donald Marshall claims there's real lizards and stuff, right? You know, if you think that's too crazy, well, if you believe David Icke with the shapeshifters, it's more credible with Donald Marshall saying it says they're actual physical, and they live way down below the earth. So that's what he says, and you know, maybe that verifies the hell stories and a lot of the stories in the dragons and all the stuff that goes on in different cultural stories throughout the world. I don't know. But he also called out, Mark Dice is one of them. He said, and, you know, I always figured these guys are like a big bunch of BS too. There was even Dave Kokash, when he was around. Now I think that he said it became too obvious. I think it was obvious as all hell. I think they're all obvious, to tell you the truth. And, you know, Jesse Ventura, and he mentioned a couple other people I hadn't even ever heard of, you know. So, you know, I got to state this, you know, I begin to wonder about this. One thing that gives, in my mind, it gives Donald Marshall the most credibility is the number of people he calls out as BS, I think they're BS too. That's my personal opinion. I think they're just, I don't know. There's a method to the madness. They're not just scaring people for money. You know, it's like a deflection of, there's a policy going on here or something, you know. They want you to bite somehow. Maybe they're giving you bits of truth, but they want you to bite somehow with something that's not correct. Now, something else he said, that the American puppet government, or whatever the hell you want to call it, is going to create so much problems over here, it's going to make China and Russia look like the good guys on purpose. That's something else I always figured was going on too. You know, we as Americans just got to stick with our individual rights and Bill of Rights, and that's the deal. But you know, and also he talked a lot about the royal family in the UK, and you know, if you don't have to be too much of a conspiracy buff or anything like that to kind of have suspicions about the death of Princess Diana and her future husband, running into a pole, you know, that type of stuff. How convenient, right? Right? So if you want to think, you know, the royal family's like a bunch of nice people, go ahead. But, you know, he alleges a lot more stuff than that. But I have to put this out because, you know, the more statements I read on this guy about, you know, even Roseanne Barr and stuff, you know, she acts like she's ratting out on Hollywood, but she's not. And, you know, it's exactly how I'm reading things. I mean, it's just my opinion. Now, as far as the one thing I could actually, you know, not too much with this lizard and the lizard taking over the body, but who the hell knows? But the one thing I could actually say that I think there's some scientific basis, like a lot of scientific basis, is the stuff with the cloning. And the reason I'll state that is this. Now, I'm gonna really not try to go too far down a limb on any of this type of stuff because I'm not going to play conspiracy, you know, scare people for fun and profit or whatever the hell it is. I'm just going to state you some obvious facts. I mean, they cloned some frogs. I mean, that was easy to do. They cloned a sheep 20 years ago, Dolly, 1996. The one thing that always got me was when I was reading Dr. Robert Otto Becker's book, MD, and he was actually growing back the limbs on severed rats that were not supposed to grow back by applying an electrical charge, a very, very minute electrical charge measured in millivolts, with one side was a platinum electrode, and the other side was a silver electrode, and I think they put a negative electricity through the side, through where they wanted the limb to grow. They wanted to grow. I think it was negative millivolts, and as long as they kept that electricity on, the rat would grow back the entire limb. But, you know, you start thinking about, well, if they took some cells or, you know, some tissue and they applied electricity to it and it had all the nourishment and the hormones and everything available inside in some type of saline solution, like it's almost like seawater, but had all the micronutrients and everything available, and this electricity was applied to that tissue, why maybe it could grow all the way back. That's been said by other people. If you look back, if you look on other videos on YouTube, it's not that crazy. But you know, this is the point I want to drive home though, is this guy Robert Otto Becker, MD, medical doctor, not somebody who's like a doctor that's a PhD. He was an actual medical doctor. He was actually defunded from these experiments instead he was doing it in the 70s. Now, you think about all the servicemen and women, well, I guess, well, there's some women, I guess, that get hurt, but usually it's males, I guess. But, well, anybody who has an injury in the military, serviceman or woman, whatever, is that gets hurt and they're severely injured, and so they have, you know, they lost part of their leg, they lost part of some of their fingers, they have spinal cord injuries, they have major scarring. They have some kind of internal injuries and things like that are very bad. Well, why wouldn't they have just pursued this technology that Dr. Robert Otto Becker was finding out about, and it was public, and apply it to healing people in the military that served our country? Now, he proved a lot of things. Actually, some of this stuff is actually coming out now. They actually have like a bandage that has a little bit of silver in it as a conductor, and also a it's, you know, antimicrobial, and they apply a slight electrical charge to it, and it helps heal the wound faster. But the technology's been far more advanced than that, and it's been known since the 70s that I know about publicly. So what does that tell you? Maybe there is something that's far more advanced than that, where they could just recreate a whole life from, you know, some little bit of tissue or something like that, right? Or stem cells or whatever, you know, extracting something from the body. Actually, I think it was stem cells that are used on a salamander or something like that, that the salamander will grow back a leg if it's severed. And if they put that, they take that little bulb that starts to grow where the leg was severed and they put it on another part of the body, the leg grows there. It's like some kind of special cells. That's what a salamander, which is supposed to grow back limbs, but they showed where it could be done on other things that not supposed to grow back body parts. It's even been shown with humans that are, I know like with the younger the person, if it's a child, they have a better chance of growing back more of the finger. But it's also like if you keep it from not healing or scabbing over and you leave a little bit of blood there and you keep it bandaged, but there's just a little bit of blood there, it grows back a lot longer and a lot better if there's a severed finger. People have shown to do this. Even adults have been shown to do this with like a severed thumb, different things like that. So if you take the technology, exponentially farther and you start thinking, well, couldn't you grow the whole person or animal or whatever it is? I mean, I know in the case of Dolly with the sheep, they didn't do it that way, but that's all we know publicly. But I have to admit that this guy, Donald Marshall, the way he calls out all these people, that I always figured, I'm going against the grain over here if I say something. Well, it depends. It depends on who it is. But these people have major, major, major followings. Like, it's like they're telling you the absolute truth. And I'm like, I don't think so. But I don't know. Maybe I'm... I don't really know why people follow. I don't even know why people... And I don't really want to get into these giddy rumors because I think they're not constructive at all. It's like, you go to Simple Basics 101. But Donald Marshall does have some pretty wild stuff out there, and I find it difficult to believe, except for maybe the cloning. But if the other stuff is true... Man, the other stuff with the lizards and them being able to take over humans is true or something like that. Wow. And I would actually understand that. I think that is scary to anybody if that's true. Period. Anybody. Anybody. No matter who the hell they are. I think that would be... Well, I don't know. I mean, that's really pretty far out there. But then again... If you are a follower of David Icke, you might want to look at what Donald Marshall says, because I look at whatever David Icke says is totally ludicrous. That's my personal opinion. But when Donald Marshall, what he's saying, he says that, David Icke actually knows what's going on. That's what he says. But it's back a few steps from what David Icke says. He's actually stating that it's something actually physical. It's actually physical. It's not a shapeshifter, I mean, there's a million videos all over YouTube you can look at and say, like, the reptilian shapeshifted, it's more like the, it's like the camera and the lights and the quality of the film or some crap, and they're trying to make a case that it's a shape-shifting reptilian. I'm like, yeah, man, sure thing, buddy. Anyway, but I'm not putting out anything like that because that's ludicrous. Actually, that doesn't help, to me, that doesn't help YouTube, because it makes YouTube look overall not as a good source of information, because there's so much stuff on there like this. I try to actually put out things that are more solid, and that's the way it's going to be. Now, as far as stuff that's really way out there, Donald Marshall's got some really way out there stuff, but like I said, he calls out the people, in my opinion, I agree with this. There's like, I see the biggest alternative media names out there as owned and controlled by the big guys on the top. That's what I see also. That's what he's saying. I also see there's some kind of thing where they're trying to make Russia and China look like the heroes, so you all reject your great American way. And to tell you the truth, the American way is the best damn way going. We got more rights here than anybody, and we got the means to fix things, but people are too lethargic to bother to do it. I might say, yeah, vote or whatever, but nobody's doing nothing, man. Most people are more wrapped into entertainment and distractions than they are in actually taking positive action. So the few that actually get into the positive action, will be following around the disinformation agents that are, the top people in the alternative media. I agree with Donald Marshall saying there all the way. I do. The cloning stuff, I think that's possible. That's probably possible. I don't know about, as far as how much as he's saying, but I think there's some truth to this stuff because, like, of what I just told you about, them being able to regenerate, limbs and things like that. I would love to know exactly what Dr. Robert Otto Becker did because that could come in handy someday, man. But, as far as, but I always thought that would have been a great thing to use for soldiers and people like in Marines and sailors and airmen and airwomen, whatever, that were, that got hurt in the military serving our country. But no, he was defunded. It's like you see people coming back from service in Afghanistan with their legs blown off or something like that. And, in my mind, I'm thinking, this isn't fiction, I'm telling you. I'm not telling you a fairy tale. I mean, I know they only did it with a rat. He didn't do it with a human. But the principle was established that by applying the right electrical charge and having the right nourishment and stuff, that whatever was severed can grow back in its entirety. It's definitely worth a try on some people, I would think, and it served our country. And this whole thing was known back in the 70s, and he was defunded. And if you can read about it, it's not. There's a couple passages in it about those experiments in the body electric, and but if you take that technology to the nth degree, you almost think, well, maybe they can actually, recreate the whole, whatever it is, from just tissue. Which that's pretty wild too. But that's the most plausible of the way out things he says. But there's more stuff out there. But like I said, if you're a fan of David Icke and you believe in the lizard stuff, you might want to look at Donald Marshall's version of it. And when you look at that, you might be believing his version a hell of a lot more. It's not as crazy, at least. But when you look at that and you look at what he has to say, you're probably going to realize, well, I can't prove it. I mean, I can't put it out here as fact. It's like a little bit, what I'm putting out here is pretty far out as it is. I know that, but I always figured this with David Icke. There's a method to his wacky stories. I think they're all wacky stories. I don't believe in the shapeshifter stuff, but I always just figured it was something. I don't know what the hell it was for, but there was some kind of money behind this guy. I think because I just don't think it would take off on its own. It just wouldn't. It wouldn't. So there's a reason why. I don't even know what the deal is. I don't know exactly what it is, but if you listen to what Donald Marshall says, it makes a lot more sense why these stories are being put out like that. But he says they're actual real critters, man. Yeah, like in a movie, Critters. But anyway, just want to put this out here because I want people to think a little bit more about these major alternative media conspiracy clowns out there. Because I say they got alternative agendas. I've always recognized this. And it's amazing that he pretty much called them all out, like Bohemian Grove. I could see AJ walking through Bohemian Grove. Crunch, 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 crunch. I'm sneaking up on them guys. Oh, I got my cameraman here. Whoa, baby. If AJ was an Indian scout, like he could sneak through the woods with his moccasins and he was light of foot, I'd believe it, and he's wearing like an alligator thing on top of his head and they thought he was like one of the lizards and they said, hey buddy, come on in. That would probably work, but otherwise I just don't see it. I don't see it, man. And that's the one thing that's actually given me the most believability to Donald Marshall, because I've always seen these other guys as a pile of BS conspiracy clowns. Anyway, just want people to think, man. It's like there's a lot of weird shit going on, and we probably, the truth is probably even weirder than what we even see on the alternative media. Hate to say it, but maybe it is. Who knows?